What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you are well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some more r/AmITheButtHole. If you love a Reddit story, why not click that subscribe button, maybe the notification bell too, you cheeky so-and-so, and let's jump straight in to today's stories. Much love, guys. Now, before we get into today's first story, I just want to give you a pre-warning that there is mentions of stillbirth, so please feel free to use the timestamps in the description and along the timeline below if you need to, as that's what they are there for. Thank you so much. Now, our first story is a bit of an oldie, but it was requested by me and it's titled, "Am I the Arsehole for buying my daughter toys and refusing for my niece? My sister is acting entitled about it, all saying horrible things. My husband Dean, 29, and I, 26 female, have a wonderful little girl, Lisa, and she's 4. I'm a musician by trade, so my work has pretty much stopped, and my husband has been working a lot the past few months. I'm basically at home all the time with Lisa, and she is missing her dad a lot, as she's his double and 100% a daddy's girl. Anyway, I met up with my sister Rose, 32, recently, and we ended up visiting a toy store. I saw this male doll which looked a lot like Dean, and I decided to buy it for Lisa so she'd always have a reminder of her daddy. Rose was miffed by this and demanded I buy my niece Flora also for a doll. For years, Rose has been trying to basically force me to treat her daughter the same or better than my own. Here are some examples of her behaviour. There's only 5 months between the girls, and I've had to deal with Rose being weird about the facts for years during my pregnancy. Lisa is my second daughter, as I had a stillborn daughter in late 2014 and 20, and it broke me. Rose witnessed this, and when announced her pregnancy, she was horrible and said that she was expecting the first grandchild, saying my daughter didn't count as she died, whilst our parents and family said it was the second grandchild. Then, when I got pregnant again, Rose was weird about it, saying I shouldn't have gotten pregnant so quickly, and accused me of stealing her thunder of the new grandchild. There's been some occasions where she just expects our kids to share everything or make everything about Flora for being the first grandchild, and I just had to put up with it. Anyway, Rose kept on insisting, and I just snapped and said, "No, I'm sick of you pushing your kid onto me and basically making my one take a back seat. I'm buying my kid a doll literally to make her happy because she's missing her daddy. Buy your own kid a fucking toy." I ended up buying the toy and walking off. She went tattling to our parents, adding dramatic flair to the story, calling me a massive bitch for refusing to buy my niece a toy. My dad is on my side, saying I've had to put up with her glorifying her kid for years, whilst ignoring mine, whilst my mum thinks I should give in to her. My husband says he's sick of Rose, and she even brought up my dead daughter again, saying she'd be ashamed of her mummy. That reduced me to tears, and I told her she's dead to me, but my mum insists I apologise to Rose. Edit, the girls weren't with us. Now, even before we get into the whole mentions of buying toys and stuff like that, I would automatically cut this other person out of your life. That is one toxic person to say that sort of stuff to you. And it's one of those ones that I sit there and I just think, what goes through that person's head to think that's an appropriate thing to say? That is just unbelievably toxic, isn't it? And let's just touch on the toy subject for the sake of it, but it's pretty irrelevant to me in this one. No, you're not responsible to buy a toy for someone else's child just because you're buying one for your own. And back onto the other subject as well, with the mum also enabling her daughter's behaviour and saying you should just give in to her. I mean, absolutely not the arsehole to me. But Dylan says, not the arsehole. Honestly, you should do as your husband says and go into no contact and cut contact with her. Your mum will say some stuff, but just ignore that and move on, because it is your life and you've got to enjoy it as much as it lasts. You were under your mum's control for 18 years, so it's fair to make decisions as an adult and enjoy your life. HB says, not the arsehole at all. Does she buy your daughter a toy every time she gets her own kid one? Doubt it. The dig about your first daughter was totally unacceptable. Go and get at least low contact for a while. Sounds like it might be a good idea. OP replied to that saying no, and I've never expected her to. Flora was born in January 2016 and Lisa was born in June the same year. Rose has always resented I had my daughter only 5 months after hers, and always shoved it in my face about birthdays and stuff. At my daughter's first birthday, I just threw a small party and Rose threw a tantrum because nobody was paying attention to Flora, who was almost 18 months then. I had to get my dad to escort her out, and she even tried to steal some of my kids' presents, saying they were for her daughter. Holy shit, it just gets worse, this person. A deleted user says, honey, not the arsehole. Your sister is a horrible, abusive person, and your mother is an enabler. Rose is disgusting for what she said and has done regarding your first daughter, and to be honest, I would cut her off years ago. Don't ever apologize to her. Cut her off completely, and your mother too. CypherMax says, and quotes, buy your own kid a fucking toy, and then says, this is it, not the arsehole. I don't think any of the rest is relevant to this. You are responsible for your kid. She is responsible for hers. If her kid wants a doll, she buys her kid a doll. She can't demand you buy her kid stuff. She's the parent. Then Slitherclaw3 says, not the arsehole. What the fuck? Why can't Rose buy her own daughter stuff? Where is the logic in demanding you buy stuff for her daughter? And quotes, she even brought up my dead daughter again, saying she'd be ashamed of her mummy. That reduced me to tears and I told her she's dead to me, but my mum insists I apologise to Rose. And then says, what's wrong with your mum? What Rose said was absolutely terrible. If anyone should be apologising, it should be Rose. If you think it's better for your mental health to cut ties with her, you wouldn't be in the wrong. She's extremely toxic. Now, what do you guys make of this one? I can't see no other option than going no contact with someone like that. Imagine after hearing what she says, wanting that person back in your life. Unbelievable. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and we'll move on to the next story. And our next story comes from Flowers7935, titled, Am I the arsehole for acting unhappy at me and my wife's gender reveal? My wife is 7 months pregnant. It came as a complete surprise as my wife has been taking birth control regularly. We had originally planned to not have any kids, but my wife changed her mind after her first ultrasound. I respected her decision, even if I wasn't the happiest about it. I told her that regardless, I wasn't going to force her to make a decision. We had a gender party late because of issues with the pandemic, but we finally got around to it. I already was not happy, given the circumstances, that I did not want to have any children. I still participated to show support to my wife though. Once the gender reveal happened, everyone including my wife was ecstatic. She went to go hug me and I hugged her back, just not with the same energy. She looked at me with a concerned face but went off to hug some of her friends and family. Once it was over and we got everything put up, she blew up at me. She said I embarrassed her in front of her family and the least I could have done was pretended I cared. I told her I didn't really see the point in throwing a party just because of the gender, but she wanted to do it so I agreed. She said that she understood that I didn't really want to have a baby, but since they were almost here, that I should probably lose the attitude already. I responded saying that since she knew I didn't want the baby, she shouldn't be surprised I wasn't enjoying the baby shower. She supposedly thought that the baby shower would change my mind, but was upset it hadn't. I told her I wasn't going to apologise for simply not showing any emotion, and that she needed to give me time to adjust, especially with a kid on the way. Am I the arsehole? Edit, we use condoms and I was denied a vasectomy by my doctor. And on this one we're going to start with Cavo Latan, who says, I don't think this is really a question about who's the arsehole. I think your world is changing dramatically in a way which you weren't prepared for, and that therapy is almost definitely required. It's not wrong to be freaked out, but you've decided to go ahead with this, and now you need to find a way to come to terms with it, ideally before the kid arrives, so you can parent the child in the fullest and best way possible. Tizion says, you're not an arsehole for being nonplussed at a gender reveal. Gender reveals are stupid, but man, you need to check your attitude. If you're not willing or able to be all in with this kid, remove yourself from the situation and commit to paying child support. I get that you didn't want a kid, but it is happening. You did it, and the kid does not deserve a father who isn't going to give their all. A father whose attitude towards them is, I didn't want you. Your wife is right, you need to lose the attitude already. If you think you can lift yourself, if you think there's a chance that dad mode will kick in when the sprog is born, then great, but start doing it now, for your sake and for your wife's. Not going to give a ruling because I don't think you're an arsehole, you just need a whack around the head. Wow Wash Bear says you're the arsehole, not for not spontaneously being excited for a child when you don't/didn't want a child, but you're the arsehole for making it so obvious, especially at a party. Sorry to say, but unless you think you can put it together and generate some excitement, I think you should look into divorce, because there is going to be a child, and in my opinion, as a child of divorce, I would say having a single parent is better than having one of two parents obviously not give a shit about you. Agenda92 says, I'm probably going to get downvoted for this, but not the arsehole. It's such an ingrained thing in our society to expect everyone to want kids, and when someone doesn't, other people decide to take it upon themselves to call the person selfish or tell them you'll change your mind one day. Because this is such a prevalent attitude. It's difficult for those kinds of folks to wrap their heads around the fact that no, not everyone wants kids. People can legitimately never want a child, and there's nothing wrong with that. It sounds like you two discussed that before getting married, that kids were off the table. Well, things happen. Sometimes it's a pregnancy, but it does not mean the feelings around raising a child will up and change just because the reality of it is staring you in the face. I can sympathise with your wife's feelings, but you made it clear from the get-go that you did not want children, and you two seemed to have been on the same page pre-pregnancy. Her expectation that you suddenly change your mind on the issue isn't fair to either of you. She's putting this pressure on you to do something you do not want to do, and at the same time she's setting herself up for heartbreak with that expectation. I'm sure she's scared she'll end up a single parent, and that sort of thing could threaten the marriage. And that's not uncommon, that differences in the desire to want children or not can end relationships, since it's such a huge compromise to make. Could you have saved face for your wife? Yeah, maybe, but this is deeper than your behaviour at the party. Good luck, OP. And one more from One Understanding 3484 who says, no one's an arsehole here. You're not excited for a child you never wanted, that's fair. She changed her mind, which she has every right to do, hoping you'd be happy. You don't have to be in the child's life if that's truly what you want, but if you choose to stay with your wife, you need to be present for that child and her. Now, what do you guys make of this story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and we'll move on to the next one. And our next story is from Cousin's Wife Visiting, titled, Am I the Arsehole for telling my cousin his runaway wife is visiting his sister and causing a huge fight? I regularly babysit for my cousin Sophie. Her daughter mentioned that her aunt Leah was visiting next week. Leah is the wife of my cousin Lucien, but she disappeared a few months ago with the necklace of my great-great-grandmother. It's been a huge issue in our family, and my uncle, grandfather and Lucien have all been looking for her because they want the necklace back. I thought Leah was going to visit Sophie to return the necklace, and I mentioned it to Lucien. He didn't really react, so I assumed he already knew. I was watching Sophie's daughter during Leah's visit when Lucien showed up and there was a huge fight. He didn't even ask about the necklace, just kept asking her if she was pregnant. She told him it was none of his business and that he had lost his right to ask her that. They kept arguing and Sophie tried to calm things down, but they didn't pay attention to her or anyone else. Eventually they did calm down and Leah asked Sophie why she would tell Lucien she was there, but Sophie denied it and then Lucien said I was the one who told him. Before I left, Sophie pulled me aside and told me off for telling Lucien. It was an honest mistake. I genuinely didn't know about their other problems, and everyone has been so focused on getting the necklace back that I assumed that's why she was visiting. Am I the arsehole? Now, occasionally these stories come up. I mean, we've probably covered about one or two since I've been starting this channel. And whenever we've covered them, I always remember the replies is that you never tell someone. Generally, people run away for a reason. Whether it's to escape an abusive ex or whatever, there is a reason behind it. So you never reveal that person's location for their safety. You never know what's going to happen when you reveal that location. So I think automatically to me in this one, that's going to make you the arsehole. But Issa says you're the arsehole. You had incomplete information and you blundered it quite badly. You don't say how old you are. It's possible you're only a very minor arsehole because you are young. If you are more than 22, you need to learn better fast. Generally speaking, people do not vanish from their entire lives for no reason. If someone's spouse cannot find them, it is important to consider that perhaps it's safer that way. If she took something of value on the way out, well, disappearing is not cheap. Children cannot be expected to keep secrets or always understand what they hear, so you should run info you get from Sophie past her mum before sharing it in the future. Cake Eating Rabbit says you're the arsehole. You knew she ran away from Lucien. You told him where she is. How would you not be the arsehole? Dreamy DeNightmare says you're the arsehole, and this is why people say minding your business is free. You thought you were hot shit and had the gossip, so told everyone, and it sounds like this girl is running away from a toxic or abusive relationship. In the future, mind your own business. You aren't married into their relationship, so again, it's none of your business. Did I mention it's none of your business? And Cassowary says you're the arsehole for your naivete. People don't generally disappear unless there's something terrible like abuse in the relationship. Did you tell your cousin that you told Lucien she was there, so you knew to keep it a secret from them, right? Somehow I doubt Leah actually has the necklace and it was a lie Lucien told to alienate her and justify people reporting her movements. And we'll have one more from Fading Blue, who says, "You're the arsehole. If she was visiting to return the necklace, there was no real need to involve Lucien. Sophie could have dropped the necklace off after Leah was gone. In fact, you could have asked Sophie if that's why she was there instead of going straight to Lucien. It sounds like the necklace being stolen was a lie anyway, since he focused solely on trying to find out if she was with another man by asking if she was pregnant. Both that and the way she responded tells me she had a good reason to run off, assuming she actually did run off and he didn't also lie about her divorcing him and cutting contact." Now, what do you guys make of this one? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and we'll move to the next story. And our next story comes from Reddit Throwaway 45. Titled, "Am I the arsehole for insisting my brother's girlfriend prove she's pregnant or she has to move out? My female 20 brother, 24, has been on and off with his girlfriend, 27, for a couple of years now. It's been the same song and dance. They're happy for a few weeks, then something small happens, they argue, it gets really nasty, and they make up and back to a loving couple. When I learned my brother got kicked out of his apartment and needed a place to stay, I offered him the extra room in my apartment, and my brother agreed to pay rent, help with bills, and pitch in with food. For 3 months now, she's been announcing she's pregnant. She alone will eat a snack box with 50 small bags of chips in it a week. I tried to reason with her and to get her to cut back, not only from overeating, but she was running us low on food. But she insists she and the baby are healthy and it's just cravings, blah blah blah. Since last month, most of what my parents sends to my house. My mum is a couponer, so she bulk shops and gives away what she has too much of. My brother's girlfriend is the first to go into it, and a large portion of it is gone by a few days into the week. From a 24 case of Monster, the energy drink if you're not familiar, 8 will be gone in a week from just her. She eats a hell of a lot of food too, most of which no pregnant woman should be consuming so much of, and yes, I know all pregnancies are different, but words can't explain how much she eats in one sitting. So today, I had seen her drinking coffee, and after a second cup, I asked her if she should be drinking so much, and she said a doctor told her it was fine and that she had no worries. When I suggested she take on a healthier diet for the baby, she just scoffed and walked out. I went and asked my brother if he's been to any of her doctor appointments or even seen a positive pregnancy test, and he said he didn't. I confronted her about it, and she said she didn't have to prove anything and started to get defensive. I told her she needed to show a test or some proof of going to the doctor, or she needs to move out as she doesn't help at all. My brother started defending her and changed his answer from not seeing any proof to seeing her pregnancy test. My parents got word of what I said, and my mum says I was in no place to say anything, and every woman's body is different, and I wouldn't know since I've never been pregnant. Am I the arsehole? And there's a mini sort of edit update on what they're going to do after this, which I will cover that after the comments. And my first thoughts on this, and I'm no pregnancy expert here, don't get me wrong, but energy drinks and that amount of coffee, is that safe? Doesn't sound safe to me, but hey, as I said, I'm no expert. And some of the things OP was saying, questioning her eating habits and stuff like that. Normally I'd come into this one and say, this is up to her. If she's seen her doctor says okay, then it's all up to her, But this is in your house, this is your food she's eating, and she's contributing nothing to the household. And whilst I think asking her to prove her pregnancy is a bit too much, I think at the same time, I possibly think a better way around it was just saying to brother and girlfriend, we need to set a deadline of when you're out of here by, simply because you can't live like that any longer, as it's just not sustainable. But FSBBM, so I will say not the arsehole on that one, but FSBBAM says kinda not the arsehole. Asking for proof is extreme, but she's also eating you out of house and home. Even if she is actually pregnant, she probably needs to find a place of her own to get herself her own food. Do you really want a family of 3 living with you, when the mum and dad have a shit show of a relationship? Spoiler alert, you do not. Lizzie says not the arse, and if your mother is so concerned, maybe she should house your brother and his girlfriend. OP replies, she's the one that forced my brother to get his own apartment by kicking him out, because she was sick of their arguing. Holy moly. Typical nefariousness says not the arsehole, since she's not contributing and is taking advantage, but I wouldn't make it a condition. I would simply tell them they need to find a different accommodations or she needs to contribute. Side note, energy drinks while pregnant are not safe or healthy. 2 cups of coffee isn't bad. Sleepy Feline says not the arsehole. Normally I'd say it's none of your business, but she's living in your home and eating your food. She can't claim it's pregnancy cravings etc. if she doesn't want to prove she's pregnant. Cat Got Your Tongue says not the arsehole. Rather than focus on her overeating and selfishness, I would just tell everyone that you don't have room or the budget to house 3 people. You can also give your mum a heartfelt thanks for offering to assist your brother and his girlfriend with housing and food, seeing as she understands pregnancy and will be a much better source of help. And one more from a Centru who says not the arsehole. You shouldn't make her value up on the fact that she's pregnant or not. Kick her out anyway. Coffee, like 1 or 2 cups per day, isn't a problem in pregnancy, but she shouldn't drink Monster when pregnant, and absolutely not a can per day. Monster contains tons of caffeine, and cravings or not, she shouldn't eat crap food all day long. I bet she isn't pregnant, but kick her out anyway. She isn't a better person just because she's pregnant. So edit. I did talk to her a while ago about getting the job as well as helping out financially, and she said she'd start and never has. Right, so based on the majority of the comments I overstepped, yes, but I'm going to go with my gut on this one and give them the 30 days notice and call it a day. I'll sure update you guys in a month, when they're to be gone, and let you all know, who's interested, know what's happened by then. I keep repeating myself, let me add, my brother knows everything I've said, the excessive caffeine, no ultrasound, etc. Yes, my brother still buys her tampons monthly, and I know this because he goes with me when I buy mine. No, I was not faking concern by the coffee comment. She drinks 2 cups of coffee a day, along with a Monster. That's a ton of caffeine. Now, what do you guys make of this one? What would you do if you found yourself in that situation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll move on to another story. And our next story comes from Reddy Hall 3634, titled, Am I the arsehole for telling my fiance he can't be a part of his friend's wedding party when I turned down my best friend's bridesmaid offer? Title sounds confusing, so let me explain. In December, we have 2 weddings to attend. A close friend of my fiance's is getting married, and my own best friend is also getting married. Both of the couples asked if we would be part of the wedding party. My fiance's friend asked him if he'd be a groomsman at his wedding, and my best friend asked if I'd be a bridesmaid at her own wedding. We're talking separate weddings here, just to be clear. Due to some financial hardships, my fiance and I both decided to turn down both offers. Only one of us would be able to accept such a role since we couldn't afford both. When I turned my best friend's offer down, she was very understanding. My fiance turned down the groomsman's offer at first, but recently I found out he's part of his friend's wedding party again, and he hadn't told me. I told him I'm hurt that he did this behind my back, since we both compromised, would turn both offers down. So it wouldn't be one of us who'd have to sacrifice for the other. It was a mutual decision that we both agreed upon. He was the first to suggest it. He thought it wouldn't be fair for me to turn down my best friend, so he would afford to be a groomsman. And I agreed and said it wouldn't be fair for me to be a bridesmaid if he can't afford to be a groomsman too. We're in this together. I said he can't expect me to be okay with him being part of his friend's wedding party and doing all this behind my back when I turned my childhood best friend down. He implied I'm the arsehole and did not speak to me for the rest of the night. He went out for beers with some friends. A couple of his friends who are also kind of my friends text me saying I'm the arsehole for suggesting he drops out of the wedding, and he's not obligated to do that just because I feel inconvenienced, and told me to come back to my senses. Am I unreasonable and the arsehole here? Now this one's definitely not the arsehole to me, but suspicious mind on this one's almost telling me, and you know, I'm probably being paranoid. I've read a lot of these stories, is that boyfriend may have done this intentionally, like you dropped out so then he can't afford to go into it, and that was part of the plan all along, especially when you got into the argument afterwards and he went, right, I'm going out for beers, and that was it, and never talked to you for the rest of the night. And that's just the kind of way it feels to me, but it's definitely not the arsehole either way. But Smitty says, not the arsehole, you have bigger issues than this in your relationship if your boyfriend is hiding things like this from you. And then Hello Friend says and replies to that saying, I wonder what else he is lying and hiding. Boyfriend manipulated OP to get his end goal. He concocted a false compromise then backed out without letting her know. Very sketchy behaviour. To which Kitty Muffin Pie replies to that one saying, that's the most worrisome part here. The boyfriend actually suggested they skip out on both roles. He clearly knew he was still going to be in his friend's wedding party, but wanted to manipulate OP out of being in her friend's wedding because of finances. He lied to her, manipulated her, and when called out on it, is being a downright abusive arsehole. Go out for drinks with friends, spin a shitty false narrative, and watch the cascade of messages get thrown at OP. How insanely manipulative and abusive is that? And Suspicious Safety says not the arsehole, since it was his suggestion in the first place, I would be seriously questioning if this wasn't his plan all along. Are you sure he actually turned down his friend's offer in the first place? But even if he did, you are still not the arsehole. You both made an agreement and it's really unfair of him not to stick to it. Dodo says not the arsehole, maybe you should also drop out of the relationship. He's lying to you for his convenience and using his friends to guilt you. PDX says not the arsehole, and this sounds very boys club in a way I don't like. Not only did he not really explain why he changed his mind, he got upset, went out drinking, not a showcase my maturity move, and then had his friends text you to tell you to come back to your senses, and that you're being an arsehole. What sort of real man does this? Hides behind his friends when he thinks out of an agreement. I would come back to my senses and tell him that if he prefers the company of his buddies, so be it, and pay attention now. This is how he treats you now, before your wedding, before possible babies. Pay attention. This is who he is. A weasel. Edit, in case it wasn't clear, you should dump the motherfucker. He chose to let you disappoint your friend for financial reasons, but wasn't willing to disappoint his buddy. He's showing you what's important to him and who he really values. It's not you. And Unit Healthy says not the arsehole. Call your friend and tell her you've suddenly become available if she wants you. Now, what do you guys make of this story? What would you do if you found yourself in that situation? Let me know your thoughts and we'll move on to another story. And our next story is from Am I the Arsehole Spanish Daughter? Titled, Am I the Arsehole for letting my daughter speak Spanish around the house? My husband and I have been fostering Maya, 8 female, and Juliana, 6 female, for almost 2 years, and are in the process of adopting them. Maya's and Juliana's first language is Spanish, and both girls are more comfortable speaking Spanish than English, and prefer to speak Spanish when they are with us. I'm not fluent in Spanish, but I can speak to the girls in Spanish without any problems. My husband, on the other hand, didn't know any Spanish when we first started fostering them, and he doesn't want the girls to speak Spanish at home. We came to a compromise that they speak English around him, but they can speak whatever language they want to me and to each other. This worked for a while, but lately he's been getting frustrated if he hears me talk to them in Spanish. The girls have copies of most of their books in both English and Spanish, and on Saturday I took them out for a girls' day and we got our nails done, went out to eat and went shopping. When we came back, the Spanish copies of their books were in a bag in front of the front door. I asked my husband about it and he said he gave them away on buy nothing since the girls have the same books in English and don't need 2 copies. I took the girls to their room and put their books and new toys and dresses away and started to get them ready for bed. We were out a little late, so it was almost their bedtime. After they were asleep, my husband and I got into a huge argument over him trying to give away their books. He thinks it was justified because he doesn't speak Spanish and thinks it shouldn't be spoken in the house. He's now sleeping in the guest room and we're not speaking except about the girls. Absolutely gonna be a not the arsehole from me. I'm always jealous of people who can speak multiple languages. I wish I could. I should just learn, shouldn't I really? But and to me in this one, you came up with a compromise. You know, to speak to him, they're speaking in English, but to speak to each other and yourself, they're speaking in Spanish. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. Not only because they're learning both English and Spanish, but for the comfort of the girls to be speaking their, their home language, which I think is incredibly important for them. But I do question, what was going through your husband's mind all this time? Was he always planning, for them to only speak English, knowing that they're Spanish speakers? And I really hope he comes around to the fact that this is just incredibly good for them and good for their comfort as well. But Arbor says not the arsehole, your husband is though. Your daughter's first language is Spanish and it's an important and valuable part of their heritage. He should be trying to learn the language himself, not trying to take their culture away from them. Absolutely. Reliable Puma says your husband is the arsehole. Keep encouraging those girls to speak Spanish and English. Learning multiple languages is so great for people at such a young age. And No Policy says not the arsehole. You are working hard to make sure the girls you are fostering are comfortable and are supporting them in keeping in touch with their culture. You even tried to compromise by agreeing that you'll speak Spanish around him. Your husband is an arsehat. I know languages can be hard, but he's not making any effort, and because he doesn't like it, he has unilaterally decided it's going to be abolished. Tread carefully here. What your husband is doing can be detrimental to your foster children. It's one thing to be stubborn and not learn Spanish, it's another to abolish it and remove traces of it. And Macy Lady Bulldog says not the arsehole. I get your husband is frustrated hearing everyone else in the house speak his language that he doesn't. You know what the mature response is though? He can learn it. He has had 2 years with them in this house. At the very least, he could trouble to learn their language a little. good morning, how are you, how was school, are you hungry, etc., and giving away their books is incredibly cruel. I think your initial compromise was reasonable, that they speak English with him and Spanish with you. But honestly, how can you not have even tried to communicate with your foster daughters in their native language? I've never been a great linguist, but even I could pick up a few basic words in my great aunt's language after 2 days in her house. These girls have been through enough trauma being away from their family, let them continue to have the comfort of speaking Spanish to you. And reading that comment reminded me of when I worked with a few Polish folks, and I absolutely loved it when they taught me a few phrases like "Tresh jak się masz" or that kind of stuff. And they were incredibly kind when they taught me these words and tried to teach me more and more, which I absolutely loved. I mean, I got it wrong most of the time, but it was a great experience. And imagine how much it would mean to these 2 young girls if dad starts learning how to speak Spanish. I think that'd be amazing for them as well. But what do you guys make of this story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and your verdicts on all of today's stories if you choose to share them. A huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending 20 to 30 minutes with me today, getting involved with the channel. It means the absolute world. It's absolutely amazing of you, and I can never thank you enough for what you do. If you'd like to support the channel further, but never any pressure to do so, honestly, you can click that join button down below for YouTube, or click the link tree in the description and join over on Patreon. It's really helpful, but again, never any pressure. Thank you so much for your time, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love. I've been thinking that I can't let you go. Hey, can you